Picture the person you love most. Now remove hospitals, morgues, coffins, cemeteries, and every ritual you've inherited for saying goodbye. Their body is beside you, and nobody has explained what death means or what you're supposed to do next. Leave it, burn it, hide it, protect it? Before religion had names, humans made a choice. Why did we start burying the dead? Let's start with the weird part. A dead body does not need a grave. Nature already has a system. Scavengers arrive. Insects arrive. Heat, rain, and bacteria pull the body apart until almost nothing recognizable remains. Efficient. Horrible, but efficient. Burial interrupts that process. Someone spends energy cutting into hard ground. Someone lowers the body instead of abandoning it. Someone fills the pit, then remembers where it is. That is work performed by the living for a person who can never repay it. But proving that happened is surprisingly difficult. Bodies fall into cracks, sand collapses, water rearranges bones, hyenas drag them into caves. A skeleton underground is not automatically a burial. Archaeologists look for a deliberately cut pit, disturbed sediment, an articulated body, and a position that nature probably did not create. Death is inconveniently good at destroying the paperwork. The earliest widely accepted intentional Homo burials appear in the Levant between roughly 130,000 and 80,000 years ago. At caves including Kobze, Shkul, and Tin Shemet, people repeatedly placed bodies in flexed positions. At Kobze, excavators identified 7 burials alongside ochre and possible grave objects. This was not one lonely accident. Different groups were returning to particular places with their dead. At Tin Shemet, researchers reported nearly complete adult and child skeletons laid on their sides with legs tightly flexed, arms drawn toward the chest and face. Large pieces of ochre appeared inside graves. The same broad pattern showed up at Kofse and School. Bodies positioned, objects included, places reused. Once can be chance. Again and again becomes a practice. The populations living in this region were anatomically varied, and their exact relationships remain debated. That matters. Burial may not have appeared as one brilliant invention owned by one neat branch of humanity. It could spread, disappear, and return as different groups met, watched, copied, and reworked what death required. Notice what that does not prove. It does not prove religion. It does not prove belief in an afterlife. A red stone beside a body does not come with subtitles. A grave proves behavior, not belief. Then, in 2021, Maria Martinon, Torres and an international team described something painfully specific from Pangaya Saidi Cave near Kenya's coast. The burial was about 78,000 years old. Inside was a Homo sapiens child roughly 2.5 to 3 years old. The researchers called the child Mtoto, the Swahili word for child. Mtoto had been placed on the right side, knees drawn toward the chest. The pit had been deliberately dug and refilled. Tiny joints had barely shifted, showing that the body decomposed where it was placed. The skull's movement suggested the head may originally have rested on something perishable, perhaps bundled plants or another soft support. Think about the sequence. A small body was carried into the cave. A hole was opened. The child was curled as if sleeping. The head was supported. Then the earth came back. We cannot recover the mourner's face. We cannot know whether they cried, prayed, sang, or stood in silence. But we can recover the care in the position. 78,000 years later, the gesture survived even when the people did not. So, was burial just practical? Partly. A decomposing body near camp brings smell, insects, and scavengers. Covering it protects the living space and prevents an animal from scattering someone familiar across the landscape. No mysticism required. Just dirt, effort, and a very immediate problem. But practicality cannot explain everything. The easiest solution is often to leave. Many groups were mobile. They could place a body far from camp and keep walking. Instead, some dug pits, positioned limbs, added ochre, and returned to the same caves. They made death more laborious. Real progress, apparently. Grief is older than graves. In a study of 33 chimpanzee infant deaths at Gombe, mothers carried the bodies for a median of 1.83 days, even while showing signs that they recognized something had changed. Other chimpanzees have quietly attended, inspected, and remained close to dead companions. Humans did not invent attachment. The difference is that humans pushed attachment outside the body. A feeling became a pit, a color, a posture, an object, a march location. Grief could be shared and revisited after the body disappeared. Burial made emotion durable. It turned private pain into public memory. What changed was what we built around it. A grave turns grief into a shared task. Digging, carrying, arranging, and covering involve the group. The body becomes a social question. Who was this person? Where do they belong? What do we owe them now that they cannot answer? Burial gives those questions a location. That also changed time. Without a grave, death is an event that weather quickly erases. With a grave, the past occupies space. Children can visit someone they never met. A group can point backward and say, ours. Then the evidence gets louder. Thousands of years later, one burial made that social memory almost impossible to overlook. By around 34,000 years ago at Sungir, in present-day Russia, that location had become spectacular. An adult and two young people were intentionally buried there. The two younger individuals lay head-to-head beside long ivory spears. Across the Sungir burials were approximately 13,400 mammoth ivory beads, along with ochre, pendants, and other objects. Many beads had probably been sewn onto clothing during life, so they were not necessarily manufactured for the funeral. That makes the burial more interesting, not less. The community placed identities underground: clothing, decoration, age, difference, status. The dead were still being treated as particular people, not remains. People and children sometimes received the most elaborate treatment. They had not lived long enough to earn hunting records, wealth, or decades of authority. Whatever status the objects represented may have come from family, identity, or something the group believes those children already were. Burial was no longer simply hiding a body. It was preserving a relationship. This is why there probably was no single morning when humans invented funerals. The behavior emerged in pieces. Attachment made us linger. Practical intelligence suggested covering the body. Memory made us return. Symbolic thought let objects, colors, and positions carry meaning beyond themselves. Eventually, graves changed the landscape. A cave was no longer just shelter. A patch of earth was no longer just ground. It held someone. Returning there connected the living not only to a place, but to people who were absent from it. That is a strange human trick. We turn absence into architecture. You still do it. Modern funerals use polished wood, flowers, photographs, music, stone, and carefully rehearsed words. The materials changed. The problem did not. A person can disappear biologically while remaining socially present in everyone who knew them. So why did humans start burying the dead? Not because we suddenly discovered death. Other animals respond to death, not only because bodies smell. Walking away solves that faster. We began burying the dead when attachment outlived the body, and humans needed somewhere for that attachment to go. A grave is a place built for someone who is gone, by people who are not ready to treat them that way.